Okay friends, it's time to get started on our job. One of the first things we have to do is remove the entire door panel. To start removing the door panel, let's carefully get underneath this plate right here by using a plastic trim tool so we don't damage any of the door panel. I'm just going to try to pop this out. Inspect it. Set that aside. Next, we're going to remove the 2 screws that are located inside this area. There's that one. And do the same to the other one under here. Next, we're going to remove this outer trim panel as well. Just carefully try to pop that out. Remove the 2 mounting screws inside here as well. Now let's make our way to the lower aspect of this. We'll remove this screw as well. Now let's come right up along this area here. We're going to go ahead and pop this cover out of here so we can access the wiring to our window switch. Go ahead and grab onto this little tab. We'll give it a squeeze and then remove this. Every time you remove an electrical connector, inspect it. If you see any funny colors, it's corrosion and it needs to be dealt with. Now at this point, we're going to go ahead and grab onto the door panel right underneath it and by the handle, and we're going to slowly lift it up and out and away from the vehicle. On the back side here, we're going to start disconnecting our cable. To do that, I'm going to use some long nose pliers. I want to grab onto both of these ears that hold this in. We'll give them a little squeeze and then we can draw this out of the door panel. Now we can carefully pull on this. We'll slide it right out in between this slot, lift it up and slide it out of the door handle itself. And now we can fully remove the door panel. Now let's just have a quick look at this. You can see that the cable comes out through this area of the vapor barrier. And then you also have your wiring that comes out through this area, comes up along here. It has a mounting point which holds it in place. I'm just going to go ahead and use a little fork tool. I'll get underneath this area, draw it away from the door. There we are. Inspect that, make sure it's still good. We've got this area here. Now we can move along to this area. For this, there's a little tab that I can gently lift up on and I can disconnect this, inspect it. Now we'll come right under here. We're going to pop this out as well. And now let's come up here and start disconnecting our speaker. Let's use a 6mm to remove all 4 of these screws. Carefully remove the speaker. On the back side of it, you're going to find that you have wiring. Go ahead and squeeze that tab. Pull that down, inspect it, set it aside. Now we can start removing the vapor barrier. That's this area here. When we do this, you want to be very careful not to tear it. Pull the cable and the wiring out through it. Okay, so now at this point, what we need to do is go ahead and start lowering this window down a little bit so we can access the mounting points that hold the window to the regulator. To do that, I want to reconnect in my window. Give that a click. That goes to the motor right here. And then, of course, we need to reinstall our switch. So I'll just go ahead and plug this in as well. And now we're going to put the key in the on position, start lowering this down so we can access those mounting points. So right about this level is where it needs to be, which is approximately halfway down. Now at this point, I'm going to go ahead and turn off the key power. We'll come out here and we'll start unbolting the motor from this area. To start removing the motor from this area, what we want to do is, of course, disconnect it. And then we're going to start removing our 3 11mm headed nuts. Now that we have all 3 of those off of there, we're going to carefully reach inside here. Just keep in mind that the glass is halfway down and you don't want it to potentially fall and hurt you. Just go ahead and slide that right to the side. And now we have access to be able to drill out our rivet. Now let's go ahead and use our drill bit. We're going to carefully get into this area, drill off the head of the rivet, and then we can continue. All right, so now what we're going to have to do is go ahead and carefully lift up on the window, and we're going to draw it up and away from the window regulator, which is located inside the door there. Once we got it up, we're going to want to make sure that we hold it up with something. You can use tape or whatever you might happen to have. Just make sure it's strong enough so it doesn't let go while you're working. Once you have your window fully up, let's continue on to the last 2 nuts. One here, one there. Remove the pair. Now we can carefully reach inside here. We're going to go ahead and grab onto that window regulator arm, and we're just going to go ahead and push it away from the door so the studs come out. Now we can grab onto this. We're going to carefully get it out of the door. Okay, now it's time to install our brand new window regulator. Let's have a look at it. Right along this area here, you can find your 3 mounting studs for the motor. Those are the areas that are going to go right into the door right over here. We remember that. And then, of course, on this one part of the window regulator right here, you also have the stud up along the top and the bottom. We'll get those lined up with where they need to be. Once everything's in place, we can start putting on our nuts and locking it down. I'm going to try to get this top stud in right up here. There's that one. I'll just start the nut on there so it can't fall off on me. We'll do the lower one. Now we can grab onto that motor. Let's start putting that into place as well. Okay, we have them all started. Let's snug them up. Make sure that's nice and tight. Now we'll move along to the motor. Now let's go ahead and take that wiring. I'm going to bring it through the door and out through this hole right here. Let's connect this in. We're going to have to force this in. Listen for a click, give it a tug, make sure it's secure. So now with the key in the on position, what you want to do is just put it so that the window regulator is in approximately this position, so you can come in right through this speaker hole right here to be able to lower the window down. We'll get it in position, and then we'll just go ahead and put a nut and bolt to hold it in place. Now we're at the point where we're going to carefully go ahead and hold onto this window so it can't fall on us. We'll remove all of our tape that's holding up the window, then we'll gently lower it down into position. Keep your fingers out of any pinch points. This is super important. All right, you should feel it line up with the window regulator right inside there. And then if you were to look through the speaker hole here, you're also going to find that the hole should line up as well. All right, I've got the screw pushed through there. I'll just put the nut on. Now once you have your mounting bolt in there, let's go ahead and test this window. We want to make sure that it goes all the way up. And of course, all the way down. Perfect. Now let's disconnect this again. Disconnect your switch. Let's grab that vapor barrier. We're going to go ahead and put the cable through this little X right here. Now we'll take this wiring. We're going to come through this area. Now we can go ahead and take the wiring for this, and we're going to come right through this hole right here. Just put it right on through there. And we can start putting these wires through as well. The one with the bracket comes through the lower hole. The other one's going to come through this hole. This is the one directly to the motor. Now let's get this stuck in position. Connect this in. Listen for that click. Go ahead and press it right into its mounting point. Let's get ready to install this speaker. Go ahead and connect it in. Listen for a click. Give it a tug. We're going to line it up in position here. We'll start in all 4 of our mounting screws, and then we'll snug them all up. Press that in there. Now let's get our cable attached. We're just going to go ahead and slide the little bobble into this area here. We'll bring it around, and now we'll just go ahead and pull on the cable a little bit, and then put it into position. Listen for a click. Make sure it's completely secured. You do not want this to fall apart inside the door panel. Now let's go ahead and bring this around. We're going to take our wiring, put it right up near this hole here for us. It's going to make it a little bit easier to get to. Now at this point, what we want to do is go ahead and take the door panel. We're going to bring it up a little bit high here because we need to go ahead and put the lock inside this hole. Also on the back side of the door panel, you're going to find that you have a whole bunch of these little hooks that come around it. You want to make sure that they all fit into their corresponding holes. They're all inside the door. That's where all these square notches are. So now I'm going to press the door panel up against the door. Carefully slide it down. Now you just want to feel all the way around it just to ensure that it's completely situated up against the door as it should be. Maybe a couple loving bonks just to make sure it's completely down. Let's go ahead and grab onto our window switch. Now at this point we can start bringing this down. You want to make sure that the tabs right here line up with their corresponding holes on the door panel. Press that right down. Now we're going to start putting in both of these mounting bolts, and then we'll move down to this area. Let's get this bottom screw in here as well. Now let's go ahead and get this trim piece on here. Let's have a look at the back side. You can see that you have a couple locking tabs here. They need to line up with the corresponding holes on this. Also, what you're going to find is that you have this lip right along this area, which needs to slide underneath this groove. There we are. Now we can move along to this one, same thing. You've got a couple tabs, go ahead and line them up and press it in.